Hello, good afternoon. Michael Wynn, Chief Digital Officer of Digital Ops, Division of RB Oppenheim Associates. Thanks for joining in today to the Digital Marketing Podcast and video, where we talk about digital marketing strategies and tactics to help grow your business. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into an extremely interesting subject matter, and that is the Maslow Effect. What is the Maslow effect? And why is it that what is the science behind why content goes viral? I think it's fascinating when we look at digital and social media and really what is the trigger? What are the causes for why does content go viral? Um, and I think what we really have to do to dive deep into this, and I was fascinated as I kind of studied and researched for today's episode. I really just completely nerded out on the science of this, which is interesting because when I was going through school, I completely skipped and did not pay attention in science class at all. I think looking back, I wish I would have paid a little more attention, would have served me better. Nevertheless, it's good time to go back to school and teach yourself some things about why we do some of the things we do. It really boils down to fundamental human basics. And I think it's interesting, what is the psychology behind why we share content? A lot of people say that social media is ruining us. And I think that's really not true. I think what it's actually doing is exposing us. It's really exposing the things that we don't like, the things that we do like. It's really pulling back the veil because it's becoming easier and easier for us to kind of lower the guard and push it out there and comment and share and put it on display. But getting back to the Maslow effect. So Abraham Maslow wrote a paper in 1943 and released it in Psychology Review. And a lot of debate, a lot of wrestling with the academics, but nevertheless, his paper really began a fundamental discussion about the psychology behind human emotion and basic behavioral motivation of humans. Why do we do what we do? And so he came up with this hierarchy of needs, right? So this sort of a pyramid shape, if you will, that was designed to illustrate the pattern of behavioral motivation. And in this pyramid, at the very bottom, at the widest base of this pyramid, was the physiological basic needs as a human, right? Food, water, sleep, sex, shelter, just the basics, right? Clothes, like the absolute basics. And so once those items are met, we then have the ability to move into the next layer when it comes to our behavioral motivations and sort of going up the pyramid, if you will, you go into sort of this safety layer, this layer of security, emotional security, financial security, personal security. And so again, we move from basic into this sort of safety. And then the third sort of level, once these two fundamental areas are met, we move into this sort of third area as we begin to move towards the top of the pyramid. And that is the desire to have the feeling of belonging and of love, right? It's a basic human emotion, to be able to have friendships, to be able to experience intimacy, to be able to have family relationships. I mean, these are the core sort of emotional tenets of this, sort of pattern, if you will, of, okay, I need my basic, food, water, shelter, sex, the basics. And then once I feel, secure, then I go into the, areas of love and belonging, and then kind of after that, being able to move into the next area, which is self-esteem. Of course, that being recognition, getting noticed, respect, praised by others. This being sort of that fourth area. And then the pinnacle, the very top, was self-actualization, meaning really having a sense of purpose, really experiencing and being able to be creative, and really being able to realize and achieve what we feel as our full potential within ourselves. So this was sort of the pyramid that he illustrated in his paper. And again, what's ironic, I think, is when we look back, here's this document written in 1943. Here we are in 2019. And we see that these basic fundamentals are very evident when it comes to why content goes viral on the internet, because when the content follows this sort of fundamental hierarchy of behavioral motivation, it makes sense. It's intrinsically part of who we are as humans. So I think that, again, when we go back to the social web and we think about what does the social web allow us to do, well, it allows us to put on display or publish or reflect who we are. And so we are going to, no matter what, we are going to reflect, whether consciously or unconsciously, as we're moving through these stages or these patterns of behavioral motivation. So I think this is really, the science is going to really kind of boil down, what do we share and why do we share it? I think that's really what, as we look at this Maslow effect and we look at viral content, we can kind of, start to see, oh my gosh, that makes sense, right? So think about this. When was the last time you shared just a basic post that was about a good deal on something? I know for me, like I was sharing a great deal about a grocery store, Fresh for Less, here in our local market. They had great deals on, beer and meat and, just some of the basic stuff that, that you need in your house, right? And so again, that seems very fundamental, but at the same time, it's part of our basic need, right? Now, when we talk about safety, that level of safety, that reminds me of, especially like, here in Florida, we're in the middle of hurricane season, and when hurricane area or damage comes in, like, you see people that start to, mark, I was marked safe during Hurricane, Dorian or what have you. There are different types of content that we will post and share and like that really reflect this evidence that we are going through some type of personal sense of feeling secure, or a personal or a sense of financial security. Maybe we're in search of that, and so we're sharing it, because we want to leave a marker back for ourselves so we can go back and look at it. People do that all the time. I do that, and I hear my friends be like, I'm going to share that so I can go back and check it out. And again, if it's related to finance or emotion or personal security, again, this is fundamental human behavioral motivations. And then number, sort of that third tier, that of wanting to feel like we belong to something, someone, to a group. You think about that in the way we tag friends and family in other posts. What we're doing is we want to enrich those relationships, right? And so what's fantastic about the social web is geography no longer is a boundary, is an obstacle. Friends and family who don't live in the same city, who may live in a different state or a different part of the world, we're able to share and tag them in content, and in doing so, it's growing our relationship closer together, right? So again, these are really fundamental human behavioral motivations that the Maslow effect really, I think, it makes sense. Like, it's not an argument. All although during its time, academically, again, if you look it up, it was, radically challenged because of its hierarchy in nature. But nevertheless, I think we see that it's being, really, demonstrated quite a bit. And then I think self-esteem is something that is, when we look at that, as we share our accomplishments, maybe we were awarded something, or maybe one of our loved ones was awarded something or had an accomplishment. We do that. We show we're proud of the accomplishment of our own accomplishments, or for those that we feel like we had a direct impact in their accomplishments. And then also kind of with accomplishments in that sort of self-esteem is also acquisition, things that we've purchased, right? We buy a new car, or we get a new jacket, or we buy a new watch, or we get our hair done, or, whatever that, or we're, going on a big trip. We've always wanted to go to Italy or Mexico, and we take photos, right? It's this sense of accomplishment, like this was a goal, and here's the evidence that I accomplished that goal. And then lastly, that the self actualization, which is really that here's my sense of purpose. Here's my achieving my full potential. Anything that has to do with evidence that we're in the process of or have achieved our goals, or that we're working on or developing our abilities, our talents, or even in parenting, often we'll share content, around, failures or triumphs as a parent. I know personally, as a parent of 3 girls, I often feel like I just don't get it because I'm a guy, and I love my daughters to death, and I'm so incredibly proud of them. And sometimes I wonder how in the world have they been so successful despite my own inadequacies. Nevertheless, again, sharing content around these kind of topics, and then even just the sense of, let's say you've got a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend, or you just got engaged. Again, that basic self-actualization of, I have realized my full potential, and part of that potential is being with someone who I want to spend the rest of my life with. So this is the progression. This is the hierarchy that the Maslow effect, as sort of written and illustrated in 1943, is playing out today in 2019, and that we've seen over and over and over. Now, when you take all of this and you're thinking about your own brand, you're like, Michael, this is really, you're totally nerding out on the science here. How does this practically relate to me and my brand, and how I'm going to create content, and hope that I hit the lottery jackpot, and have a piece of content go viral, which then, catapults my brand and ultimately helps me grow my business? Well, I think, first of all, if you just understand as basic human, why we share what we share, and then you start to think about all the different content that you're working with, it just puts a different light on it, because you move away from this, inanimate, object-based sort of viewing into a more human, an emotional, empathetic sort of lens, which is really the edge you want when you're trying to connect with the people who matter most to you and your business. I think it's also important, if we want to really layer this and take it just to the deepest level, is let's look at what are the 8 triggers, what are the 8 emotional triggers that when you combine your creative and your content with these 8 triggers, I think it's really important. Number 1 has to be awe. When you inspire someone and you introduce awe into your content, it's an emotional trigger people can't help but to share. Number 2, when you introduce anger, things that make people angry, maybe injustice, in anger, or maybe number 3, when you connect with them on what stresses them out, the anxiety that they're going through, and how your product solves that problem, or that your brand understands that anxiety and how your product could make their life better or easier. And then number 4 would be fear, whether it's fear of missing out, whether it's fear of, again, going back to insecurity or fear of being alone. I mean, those all tie back to those 5 fundamental behavioral motivations. And then number 5, joy, feeling happiness and joy, showing, customer testimonials are just a piece of emotional triggers that connect with human to human people experiencing satisfaction and joy that they decided to purchase a product or service. It went well, and now they're talking about it. And then next would be lust. When you're really just, you desire something at such a great passion that you're willing to do anything for it. You'll literally throw common sense out the window. When you frame your creative and your content in that manner, and share it, oh boy, does it really trigger the person on the other end when they're consuming that content. The last 2 would be surprise and shock. Obviously shock value and surprise. A lot of people hate birthday surprises. A lot of people don't like to be surprised, but at the same time, it's hard to get away from content that you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. That's the kind of content that can easily go viral. And so those are the things: awe, anger, anxiety, fear, joy, lust, surprise, shock. Those are the things that when you have these emotional triggers as part of your content, you're putting together all of the pieces of that Maslow effect that can position you for your content to potentially go viral and help grow your business and help expand your brand reach. And that's what we're trying to do, right? We're all trying to succeed. We're all trying to, grow our business or grow our membership, or whatever the metric is that you determine measures your effectiveness for your business. So, those are the things I think, as I looked and really took a deep dive into the Maslow effect and what is the science of why content goes viral. I hope that this episode really provides you with a foundational piece of why are we creating what we're creating. And here's an important thing as well. The more and more we work with our clients, and we start to see a pattern, it's rather than creating for the sake of creating, just recording and documenting how things are, it seems to come out in a very authentic manner. And so not to say that you can't storyboard and create a story and bring characters in that touch all of the emotional points. Look at the Dwayne Wade video, his retirement video that went viral, right? Millions of people saw it. Millions of people connected with the fact that he had achieved his greatest achievement, that he had achieved his fulfillment of being one of the greatest basketball players of all time. But yet at the same time, if you work it backwards, and you look at his being recognized by the league and being recognized by his peer by changing jerseys back and forth, when you look at the interaction with all the friends and family members that gave them their own shirts, from his mom to his family, and to all of the victims of the incident that he was involved with, that's why it was viral, because it did reach all of those tenets. And so again, as humans, when we are, when we come across content that hits them all, like, that's where the magic happens, right? So don't underestimate your company. Your brand is literally one piece away from hitting a viral home run that changes the trajectory of your business and of your own personal brand, forever. And if you understand the Maslow effect and are aware of it and continue to document and record and produce, you're going to position your brand in the best way to hit that mark and experience tremendous business growth. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. My name is Michael Wynn. I am the Chief Digital Officer of Digital Ops, a division of RB Oppenheim Associates. Have a great day and tune in tomorrow.